So the very first NASCAR Cup Series race in Mexico City is in the books. We got a lot to talk about, from hype of the event to the future of NASCAR in Mexico to the race itself. But the first thing we got to talk about is, of course, Shane Van Gisbergen. Absolute domination, leading all but 40 laps to take home his second career Cup Series win, the first one since Chicago in 2023, and jumps from 33rd to 9th in the playoff grid to lock himself into the playoffs. There's going to be a lot of discourse on that. The first thing that pops into a lot of people's minds is, of course, Harrison Burton at Daytona last year, where he was, 36 or something in points and went in the playoffs. SVG also outside the top 30 now in the playoffs. Again, I've kind of already made my thoughts known on that whole winning year and stuff. But this should not be a surprise. We all knew that the sole reason why Trackhouse put SVG in the 88 car in the Cup Series to begin with was because of things like this. When we have so many road courses in the schedule, having Watkins Glen, Sonoma, Chicago, and now Mexico City jumping on board, Coda, tracks like that, with them being part of the schedule in the regular season, we knew that the sole reason why Trackhouse picked SVG was because they knew that he could excel on the road courses, and this weekend was a perfect example. One pole, led the most laps, and took home the checkered flag. The race started out wet. We got one lap of racing in before we had to throw a caution out for rain. I do have a slight little topic, a little saying I wanted to mention about what NASCAR is that I understand that we're still new to racing in the rain. It's still not a common thing in NASCAR. However, I would like for it to see them kind of lay off a little bit. I do think there has to be a better way as to how NASCAR deals with cautions or deal with weather conditions in the rain. I get it. You want to be safe. You don't want chaos to happen. But at some point in time, we have to let off the gas a little bit and let the teams and drivers decide, do we go on wets or do we go on slicks? I think it makes the strategy 10 times more interesting. The strategy in this race was already a lot of fun to begin with rain. But I feel like if we just let off the gas a little bit and let them decide, hey, do you want to stay out or do you want to pit for wet tires regardless of the weather conditions, and not have NASCAR kind of tell you, all right, rain, come on, put some wets on. Let the drivers and let the teams decide. I really wish NASCAR would do that. I don't know when the case would be. Maybe if NASCAR gets even more experience in the rain. But I feel like eventually down the line, we have to let our foot off the gas and let the teams and drivers decide what's best for their car. But after that, we got back to racing. It was very interesting because we would see some drivers stay on the west for a longer period of time. Some decided to go back on the slicks. There were some drops here and there throughout the race, so you weren't really 100% sure on what the conditions were going to be like, which made the race a lot of fun. So from a strategic perspective, this race was very interesting to think on the mental side, which tire strategy was the right one. We did see some drivers, because we knew that fuel was going to be a strategy. We saw some drivers stay on pit road a lot longer just to get a little bit more on fuel. SVG in that final pit stop was very critical because he stayed on pit road a lot longer, him and his team, to try and get every last ounce of gasoline in that car to make sure that he was good to go on fuel, because with how long this track is, with 100 laps in this race, it did create a very interesting time period on, could we have a little incident like what we saw in Michigan where maybe fuel strategy could come into play? The big story came at the end of stage 2. That's when everything flipped, because while SVG was the guy to beat, it was Ty Gibbs, the only driver that seemed to be able to put the fight to SVG. And it seemed as though that he was going to be the guy that could potentially take away SVG's crown. But that all changed at stage 2, near the end of stage 2, where Ty Gibbs was leading, was out ahead of SVG, and Gibbs elected to pit for fresh tires to prepare for stage 3, while SVG, his team decided to stay out to take the stage 2 win, which was very questionable because Shane Van Gisbergen, like I said, he's 33rd in points. He needs to win, and we know he ain't going to win on the ovals unless it rains. He needs to win, so that strategy was very unusual. It seemed as though that Ty Gibbs was in the catbird seat, that he was going to be able to take the lead once we had to do one more round of pit stops, and he was going to go on by to win the race. At stage 3, very quickly, Ty Gibbs, he started 15th, drove his way up back to 4th place in a short time period, and then on lap 63, Shane Van Gisbergen pits. Ty Gibbs takes the lead. And again, seemed as though that, all right, 40 laps to go, Ty Gibbs, he's ready to set sail. Well, until Carson Hocevar. We're going to talk about him in a little bit, but he spun all by himself, I believe. I don't think he hit anything or anyone, but he spun all by himself in the final corner, brought out the caution, and that kind of just threw away Gibbs' strategy because this was pretty late in the run where everyone essentially had to pit, especially Gibbs, who stayed out a lot earlier on tire. So he had to give up the lead, forfeit the lead, go back mid-pack, and he was never really able to recover. That allowed SVG to really not have to deal with the only driver that was capable of taking the win away from him. And he was so smooth, just had no issues, nothing like that. And I say that because SVG won with the margin of victory of 16.567. Huge credit to Stefan Stump for this on Twitter, but he said that is the largest margin of victory for a cup race since Texas, November of 2009. However, that race, Texas in the fall of 2009, had fuel strategy. The biggest margin in terms of pure speed was the largest since Jeff Bodine lapped the field at North Wilkesboro in 1994. To say SVG dominated everyone is a massive understatement. He murdered the field, just absolutely killed everyone, eviscerated. He was in another planet, another country, regardless, whatever. SVG just was the guy. Let's go over the running order, shall we? So second and third on the podium, Christopher Bell, he started around mid-pack, but drove his way up to the front, had a really good car, but a top 5 car. Chase Elliott should say in third place. Now, Chase Elliott, that 9 team, they've been clicking off in recent weeks. That 9 car of Elliott, I didn't feel like he had the car at the first half of the race, but definitely in stage 3, we saw that 9 car start to get better and better as the long run went on. We saw him picking out drivers one by one, drove up to third place. Don't think he had the car for SVG. Maybe if a caution would have come out, things would be a lot different, but regardless, he had one of the best cars, especially on the long run in those closing laps. That 9 team, they're finding something. They're finding speed on the long run. Reminds me a lot of Ryan Blaney, who always found speed on the long runs at every single race, no matter what they went through. That seems as though we're starting to see that a little bit out of Chase Elliott now. Fourth, Alex Bowman. This was a much needed win after a horrendous previous few weeks. We mentioned on how his crash at Michigan, how violent that was. He said in an interview that it took until Wednesday. By Wednesday, he still wasn't really able to walk properly because of how hard his hit was. And here he is managing a top 5 finish at a very challenging racetrack like Mexico. Much needed good run for him when he's trying to fight his way to stay in playoff contention. And Michael McDowell, great run for him, rounding out the top 5. Look at John Hunter Nemechek in 6th place. Excellent run for that 42 team. They have been putting on some very strong runs in recent weeks. Chase Briscoe, 7th. Good run for him in that 19 ride. Cole Custer in 8th. Good. This is a perfect idea of how strategy really kind of changed everything because, I mean, look at this top 10. I mean, McDowell on the road course is not surprising. But Nemechek, that's surprising to see. Chase Briscoe, he's pretty good on the road courses, but then you got Cole Custer in 8th place. Was not really a factor, was not really mentioned all race, but again, strategy worked out in his favor, did what he needed to do, kept his car clean, got a top 10 finish. And around at the top 10 is William Byron and Chris Buescher. It's kind of crazy. I should go back to Chase Briscoe because I believe he was in the barriers. He was in the tire barriers earlier in this race and still managed to rebound and finished 7th place. So excellent run for that 19 team. And like I said, Byron and Buescher round out the top 10. Ty Gibbs, with that ill-fated caution, was not able to rally back, ends up selling for 11th place. A very frustrating day for that 54 team because he had, I felt like, outside of SVG, the car to beat. Bubba Wallace, another driver that's trying to fight his way to stay in playoff contention. Look at these road course races. We know Bubba Wallace has gotten a lot better on the road courses, but still him and road courses, not his cup of tea, not his type of racing. But back up against the wall, needed to perform, ends up with a top 15, top 12 finish. So a good run for that 23 team. AJ Allmendinger 13th, good rally after that very early crash. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Ryan Blaney and Ryan Preece, who won stage 1, rounds out the top 15. Ross Chastain is 16th. He got hit a couple times near the end of the race in the stadium section, got spun around. Eric Jones, Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, the hometown hero, he had a good run at the beginning, even led a couple laps earlier in about halfway in the race around stage 2, I believe, or so. He led some laps, was on a different tire strategy when he was on wets. Everyone else was on slicks. His car seemed to be a lot better in the rain, but once it started to get on dry, his team fell back on strategy and was never able to recover. But still, a great weekend overall for Suarez with everything he had to deal with, including that amazing win yesterday in the Xfinity Series. And Tyler Reddick, shocking to see him in 20th place, wasn't mentioned at all, just did not have a good weekend all around. Joey Logano in 21st, Todd Gilliland in 22nd, Ryan Truex, he got hit a couple times, spun around a couple times in this race, rebounds for 23rd, filling in for Denny Hamlin. Justin Haley in 24, right, we're going to talk about him. He was involved in that earlier accident. Brad Keselowski, Josh Berry, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., we're going to talk about him in a little bit. Austin Cindric, Riley Herbst. Herbst had a good run going, had a top 15 run going on until he was taken out by William Byron late in the race. And round of the top 30 is Noah Gragson with Cody Ware, Catherine Legg, Ty Dillon, Carson Hocevar, Zane Smith, Kyle Larson, and Kyle Busch rounds up the 37 car field. Now, why is Larson and Busch and Zane Smith, why are they so far down the running order? Well, it's because early in the race, very early in the race in stage 1 in the rain, Kyle Busch, last time he was in Mexico, he brought in a weapon. Well, when NASCAR announced that they would be coming to Mexico, he thought, you know what, I'm going to try something different. Instead of me bringing in the weapon, I decide, you know what, I'm going to become the weapon. Drove in way too hard in turn number 1 and just eviscerated the field. Anyone that was in front of him just wiped out Justin Haley, wiped out Zane Smith, wiped out AJ Allmendinger, and Kyle Larson all at once. Larson, even though he spent, I don't know how many laps behind the wall, but he spent so much time behind the wall and still, I think, was able to get the fastest lap of the race with all that damage. So, hey, there you go. At least he got a couple points to take home with him. But yeah, that was a big hit. That was really the only big moment of the race. Carson Hocevar, though, he did cause some more controversy once again, because not only did he cause that caution that kind of did not help Ty Gibbs' situation, he also once again was off track, got into other cars, and he also got into Ricky Stenhouse Jr., which of course he did. And Ricky Stenhouse had enough of it, and he went over to Carson Hocevar, went into his window net, and this is what he said.
I'm going to beat your ass. You're a lap down. You got nothing to do. Why you run right into me? Second time. No, I don't. I don't give a damn. No, I don't. I don't give a damn. I'm going to be trapped. I'm going to get back in the state. Yeah, I know.
Yo, Ricky. He's right there. Like, your head was literally in the window. Like, your face was right here. What do you mean? What do you mean I'm going to beat your ass? Beat his ass now! Alright, or like, if you want to, you could just stand back, wait for him to climb out, and then beat his ass. Like, I don't care if he's 4 or 5 inches taller than you. Like, I get it. He's a tall dude. You're short. I get that. But you can't just, like, and what is this? I'm going to be, when we get back to the States. What the fuck? What does that mean? It reminds me so much like when Kevin Hart says, I would pay this, but, my money's on the savings. How about my checking account to the savings account? It's not going to work. It's going to take too long. That's what that reminded me of when I first heard that. Because what do you mean you're going to wait till you get back in the States? What, do you not know, like, the Mexican law? Like, you think, like, hey, you know what? Like, I would beat your ass, but listen, we're in Mexico. I don't know how the law works. Like, I don't want to spend the night in jail. So, you know what? I'm going to back off. But when we land in Charlotte, your ass is mine. Do you not understand how stupid that sounds? If you're going to beat his ass, beat it. Just beat it. Just do it. Do it. Instead of like just saying, I'm going to beat your ass when we get back in the States. Like, that is like, come on, dude. I swear, that's one thing I don't like with NASCAR drivers nowadays. They say a lot of talk, but don't do a lot of action. Like, I guarantee if that was Tony Stewart, he would have been walloping in that window net. I mean, Clint Boyer did it to Newman. So, like do something then, Stenhouse. You waited for Kyle Busch. Like, I get it. I get it. Like, you don't want to pay another fine, but then don't say shit like that. Don't say, oh, I'm going to beat your ass. If you're not going to do it, either do it or don't say anything. Just shut up. I'm sorry, I have to say that because that annoyed me so much. That annoyed me so much when he said that. When we get back to the States, I'm gonna beat your ass. Boy, shut up. But yeah, overall, what are my thoughts on this race? I will say stage 1 and stage 2, very fun, very interesting strategies. A lot more passing opportunities than what I thought. I really thought maybe there were only going to be 3 spots, turn 1, turn 4, and I believe turn 11. I think those were going to be the only spots, but surprisingly, the drivers were able to make more passing opportunities at a lot more different portions of the racetrack. It was so fun to see how they were racing in the rain. So the first 2 stages were very fun to watch. Stage 3, though, really nothing. I mean, it was just complete evisceration by SVG on the field. So if I were to give a rating for this race for next gen road course racing, I thought this was pretty good. It was a pretty good race. I'd give this maybe a 7.5 out of 10. It was pretty good. As for the reception in Mexico, despite what certain spotters say, I know there was a lot more other people that had more positive things to say about Mexico, and that is great to see. At least from what I saw on TV, from what I've seen on social media, the fan reception, the fan engagement was awesome to see. You would have thought, I never in my wildest dreams were to see so many people swarming for an autograph for Todd Gilliland. No offense to Todd. I like Todd Gilliland. I like him. But that many people for Todd's autograph? That's pretty good. Michael McDowell. Again, in the States, the Daytona 500 champion wouldn't get that type of applause or that type of reception from a crowd for wanting their autograph. And yet, in Mexico, they wanted everyone's autograph. So that was awesome to see. So cool to see the fans come out and support NASCAR as loud as they did. I know, especially for Daniel Suarez, I really want him to do well. I had him winning this race. I thought the Cinderella story, but SVG was just too damn strong. As for the future of Mexico, I know people pointed out the attendance. The attendance, it wasn't sold out. There were some empty spots. I don't know. I know Mexico wasn't NASCAR's first option, but I would also argue that you have to start somewhere. I'm going to play devil's advocate. I understand, with the attendance, why didn't it sell out, da-da-da. I get that. At the same time, I always say you got to start somewhere. And so I'm very interested into seeing, because I would like them to return to Mexico. I want them to return again. I'm very interested in seeing how does year 2, year 3 plan out. It's like same thing with NASCAR in Chicago. I don't care so much on how year 1 does. How does year 2 do? How does year 3 do? If you can start something and it can build, all right, then we got something. I don't know what the future holds for 2026, because I know NASCAR wanted to go to Montreal first. I don't know if they're going to go to Montreal and Canada. I don't know. Based on how the travel went for this weekend, it was kind of a little wonky. But I would love to see NASCAR return to Mexico, because there is a passionate fan base down there. And I know there was a lot of people that have been fans of NASCAR, lifelong NASCAR fans, but have never been able to see a race because it's in another country. They can't really afford that. And to have one at their country, their own country, I know that a lot of fans were very, very pleased and very supportive to see a race in their own backyard. So I would love to see them return to Mexico, not only next year, but for years to follow, regardless of what certain spotter says. I thought, at least from my eyes, from the fans' eyes, from what I've been seeing, I thought it was a success, and hopefully they can build off of that. But what are your thoughts on this race? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, my name is Jet from MDK. Thanks for watching.